Have you ever looked at your photos and said you really want this to pop, but you're not really sure what exactly pop is? Well, 99% of the time, what you're going to need is a little boost in your highlights and your shadows to give more dimension. And that's what I'm going to show you today. Stick around as I show you how to dodge, and burn. Oh my god, I can't believe you made me do that! Hey everybody, this is Ed from Dodging Karma Design, where designs become graphic, where we talk about everything from photography to Photoshop. Welcome to the first episode of 2020, and we're just going to dive right into figuring out how to make your photos pop. Well, from my own personal experience, what I've noticed is when people say that their photos aren't popping, it's usually either they're blurry, or there's not enough color, or there's not enough contrast. And the best way to zero in on the contrast that you want to do is dodge and burn. Dodging is taking the lighter areas, like the highlights and so forth, and bringing it brighter and closer to show more depth, and then taking the shadows and pulling them back, make them darker so the highlights are brighter. And it is such an easy thing to screw up. I have 3 different methods that are super fun, fast, and easy, and will definitely make your photos pop. So let's pop into Photoshop. And we have this beautiful young lady with amazing grapes. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go down to here, which is the adjustments layer. It looks kind of like a black and white cookie. My old professor in college used to call it a black and white cookie, so now it's been stuck in my head, and now it's stuck in yours. If you look down here, you go to the black and white cookie, you go to curves, and you go to curves, and we're going to click right in the middle. You're going to see all these little boxes, and what you want to focus on is this line. We're going to click on it, and we're going to go up and to the left just a little bit to the point where it's almost blown out. If you look at her face right here, you'll see right about here, this is about the hottest it's going to be. So pull it back just a little bit, and we're good right about there. Then we're going to click off of it and click back on the layer mask, and we're going to hit invert because the properties panel will pop up. If the properties panel with the invert button doesn't pop up, all you really need to do is click on the mask itself and hit Control I, and what that'll do is it'll make all your white go black. And what that'll do is take all those adjustments you just made in the curves adjustment layer in this case, and it'll make all of that disappear. And we're going to click on here and write dodge, and we're going to go into here right on her face. We're going to click on the mask, hit B for the brush tool. We're going to hit shift and left bracket to make sure we have a nice soft brush. I'm going to keep the opacity 100 and the flow at 50, and we're just going to paint right over the parts that we want to have highlighted. And now if you look closely, she looks terrible. But we're not done. All we have to do now, image, and go down to apply image, and we're going to leave all of this. Make sure invert it is clicked off, and we're going to hit OK. And what that does, if we click Alt and click here, you can see it's starting to pull actual elements from the actual photo and the tones and the values into our dodge and burn, in this case our dodge. And what that does is when it's applied to the actual overall image, gives it a more realistic look. Now, this is obviously still very heavy-handed, but like I said, these are not destructive techniques. So you just click on it and you can pull it back just a little bit till it looks a little bit more normal for you. So we're going to click on our black and white cookie. Curves. We're going to grab it right in the middle, pull it back a little bit, mainly just enough so the highlights look like they're being cradled. And now that we have that, we can click off of it, click back on the mask, hit invert, brush, hit B, shift, left bracket, and we're just going to click on the areas we want to make darker. Okay, and just like before, we're going to hit image, we'll go to apply image, and we're going to keep everything the same just again, but we're going to hit invert this time. We hit OK. And if you look over here at the image, you'll see how some of the fabric texture is coming through, the texture from her hair is coming through. So all of that will keep the values as well. And if we just turn that on and off, you can see exactly how that's lightened up and darkened. And again, if it's too much, which it probably will be, You just adjust it till it's right. Now you can highlight both of them, hit Control G to make them a group. Then you can pull the opacity back in this case till it looks just right. On and off. Now obviously you spend more time on this, really dial it in, play with it, feather it a bit, blur it, really kind of get in there and really make it work. Spend some time on this, make it right. But for what I want to show you, this is the basic technique, and now you can use that and make your images pop with this version of dodge and burn. Now let's go over to the other image and I'll show you how to do that one. Now this method of dodging and burning kind of puts a little bit of the last one we did with a completely different technique. It's super fun and I think you'll like it. So here we have this beautiful model with awesome tattoos, and what we're going to do here is first we're going to click on the layer and we're going to hit Control J twice. That'll duplicate the layers. Now what I want to do is on the top layer I want to hit screen. So we go down to the blend modes and we put it on screen. And what screen does is it gets rid of all the black. So now we have it on full screen. We're just going to double click it and open up our layer style. And I want to go down here to blend if. You want to go to underline layer and you want to take this black triangle and pull it. It's pulling out all of the darkness. And we're just going to keep going slowly until we have a highlight, just the highlights, the major highlights on her face. We can even go too far and then pull back and just kind of be like, where do we want it? We have some on her chest, on her shoulder. I want to stop it right here because it's just a little bit on her shoulder and I really like the way that looks. So we're going to hit Alt and we're going to split that slider. When you split the slider, now those jagged edges here, which is kind of a cool style if you're going for like that whole rockabilly look, which actually works great for her. But what we're going to do is we're going to slide this over until it works and it is soft and it's still bringing out her highlights. And we're going to mark that dodge and we're going to go here to burn. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to multiply on this one. And that obviously makes her super dark. Now we're on burn. I'm going to click on it and we're going to do the same thing, but instead of hitting the black slider, we're going to hit the white slider and it should start bringing all that back. And what we're looking for is the exact opposite in reverse. We're looking for what is on her body that is left behind. So if you look at how her cheek right here, I like the way it emphasizes her cheeks right about here. Shows a little bit of contour. We're going to split the slider there. We're going to back off a little bit and pull that up a bit there. So now we have the dodge and the burn, or the highlight and the shadows. And we're going to shift and click. We're going to hit Control G to group them. You see how it's a group. And then we're going to now click on the mask. And now that we have a mask, we're going to, yeah, you guessed it, go to image and apply image. And now when you hit Alt and you click here, we have the applied image there. And we have it here, and all of our highlights and shadows are still coming through. And the best thing about it is you can actually click on the layers here and play with the blend ifs to really bring out the pop that you need. And you can actually redo this technique over and over again to get little things like her lips or her hair or anything you really want to emphasize to really make that pop. This one is definitely going to be a down and dirty one. And ladies, I know the last two were incredibly beautiful models and I just love working on them because it's so much fun to look at. So I, being an equal opportunity designer, I want my females in the audience, all my ladies out there, to have something to look at too while you're working on it. So that's why I picked this photo. So this is me without my shirt on. And what we're going to do is we're going to... What? Now this is a down and dirty way of getting this done. If you absolutely just need to get something done super fast, this is what you do. And we're going to go to curves and we're going to just jack that up to the outrageous. I look almost heavenly. Okay, we're going to do that. Click off of it just like we did before. Click on the mask and invert. Name that dodge. And we're going to go back down here. We're going to click this. We're going to hit curves and we're going to click in the middle and we're going to go darker. Just pretty dark, like that dark. Click off of it, click on the white mask again, click invert. Now we're back to looking at me. Now we rename the burn layer burn. We're gonna hit B for the brush tool, and we're actually do shift, and we're gonna make it a hard brush this time. And we're going to keep it opacity at 100, flow at 50, just like we did before. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make lines. Lines basically anywhere the highlights are supposed to be. Jesus, what was I thinking? This is hard to work on. This is just... Okay, that looks pretty good. Even though it looks terrible. I'll show you why. Now we go to burn, and we can do the same exact thing. Now we're going to click off it all, and we're just going to admire how awesome I look. And now what we're going to do is we're going to click on the mask. So what we do is we're going to double click on the mask, and we're going to go to feather, and we're going to pull it out more and more until, you guessed it, we're blurring everything we just did, and it's uniformly showing out all the highlights. And then we're going to go to burn, and we're going to do the same thing, pull up the feathering until all those dark spots start to look a little bit more natural. Right, very good. Then we're going to take that, and we're going to throw that on luminosity, and we're going to take dodge, and we're going to throw that on luminosity. And then all we do at this point is we can adjust the fill a little bit, and we are done. Now, you see the before and after, before and after, before and after, before and after. So stupid. Now those are 3 ways to make your images pop by adjusting the highlights and shadows. I know what you're thinking. Dude, why are you making this so complicated? There's literally a tool called dodge and burn. Well, there is, but let me show you what's wrong with it. If you hit the letter O, you'll get the dodge and burn tool, and it'll open up this panel up here that says you want to find the shadows, midtones, or highlights, and then you can adjust the exposure. You can make sure you hit protect tones. But let me show you what happens here. Let's say you want to dodge my left pectoral. So what you would do is you would just paint on the layer itself and make it dodge. And that's great, but let me show you how unsubtle this can be. We're going to go highlights, exposure at 100, and I'm just going to click once and drag. Now it's completely blown out the area. The saturation's horrible. It literally just made it blow out. Now we just walk over to the same panel, right click and go to burn, or you could just hit Alt while you're using the dodge. And since burning is usually for shadows, let's just go to shadows, and let's bring that exposure up to 100%. Let's say I want to have this section right here in my armpit. Go back. See the problem? In case you can't see it on your side there, it literally is burning the image. It's making everything overly saturated, darker and red, and when you use too much dodge, it blows everything out. So that is why we have all these other techniques, so those techniques are non-destructive. Because right now, I did it all on the same layer, and this layer, it's screwed. There's nothing else you can do about it. All you can do is just, I don't know, I guess maybe you can ghost it, or just stop talking to it altogether, and maybe just, you know, just don't even call or whatever. Sorry. But if you are more comfortable with the dodge and burn tool, please do this. So you just go to open up a new layer, hit edit, fill, 50% gray, and hit OK. Now we have a completely gray layer, but now we'll change the blend mode for it to overlay, because anything that's 50% gray will go transparent and gone if it's overlaid. But if you dodge it and make those pixels brighter, or burn it and make those pixels darker, they'll still show up, and it has none of the color information of the actual image that you're trying to dodge and burn, so you won't actually blow it out or burn it. I take that back. You can totally blow it out, but you won't get any of those color saturation issues that I showed you earlier. Now, one thing I need to stress to you is the layer you're actually working on is going to be the layer you just made that is actually gray. So when you have that on overlay, you won't see it, but you'll see what you did to it. So what I want you to make sure is, if you have the dodge tool, make sure you go up here, and now instead of having all these highlights and shadows and midtones, instead of playing with that, click on that, go to midtones, and bring this thing down to 10%. Or actually, you know what? Be completely straight with you, let's just keep it 5%. Because It doesn't take much. I keep protect tones on and I go here, and now we're going to, with a big soft brush, start building up that effect. So while I'm on the dodge tool, if I hit Alt while I'm using it, it'll actually make everything darker because it'll be activating the burn tool with all the same settings that we have up here. And now if I click on and off of that, you can see the difference: on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. And if you look at it on normal, you'll see exactly what I did. And those are just some ways to make your images pop. If anything, it's definitely a good way to start and then be able to grow from there. And the best thing about it is, like I said, non-destructive. You can go back and play with how they look and make it something better. I want to thank you guys again for showing up. I do appreciate it. So if you learned anything from this video, found any value, or just laughed, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you have not gotten around to that. Definitely crotch punch that bell because it'll inform you every time I get a new video up, so you can be the first ones to check it out. Comment, like, share with all your like-minded friends, and after all is said and done, remember, be good or good at it. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the 20. Welcome to the inaugural episode. I'm so tired. I have three different. I have three. Hell did I just do?